your special insights on making the deserts bloom. I would also request Mrs. Anshula Kant and Dr. Dinar to stay back on the stage while I invite the panelists for the next agricultural panel discussion. To continue the agricultural theme, the next discussion will be on rural productivity, raising the Human Development Index. The lineup of speakers includes Dr. Dinar, who's already on the stage, Dr. Virendra Hegde, Dharmadhikari Shri Manju Natheshwar Temple, Dharamsthal, Karnataka. I request you to join us on the stage, please. Dr. Harsh Kumar Bhanwala, Chairman NABARD, and Ms. Jayashri Vyas, MD of Seva Bank. The discussion will be moderated by Mrs. Anshula Kant, and she will also be introducing the speakers.
Thank you, Manju, and thank you, Dr. Dinar, for this wonderful exposition on agricultural practices that have been adopted in Israel to actually make the desert bloom. It was really very interesting, and we will try and see what we can learn and pick up during the next 1 hour for implementation in our country. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us in this discussion today on Rural Productivity and Human Development Index. Any talk of growth in India, to make it sustainable, has to take agriculture into account. As Mr. Mundra mentioned this morning, as much as 17% of our GDP still comes from the agriculture area, and more than 55% of our population, our countrymen, are actually dependent on agriculture and in the rural areas for their livelihood. If you think about the rest of the other sectors in the economy, then too, if you think about demand coming from, which sectors will the demand come from, agriculture and rural areas is the one place where we can look to demand coming from and rejuvenating growth in the country. Food prices is the other key ingredient in the consumer price inflation. So how we tackle food security and how food prices behave is a critical element in the monetary policy of the country, and therefore it has an impact on the whole economy. So we cannot really minimize the importance of agriculture or the rural development in this country. While agriculture took a quantum leap in the 1970s during the Green Revolution, thereafter agriculture productivity has actually not really grown as much as we would have liked it to grow. The Human Development Index is also, because I think this is one of the primary reasons that the Human Development Index also India does not fare very well. The 2014 statistics show that we are ranked 130th in the global rankings on all the 3 critical parameters, whether it is life expectancy at birth, whether it is education, whether it is per capita income. We actually are lower than the average global standards. So, if you think about it, given that 55 to 60% of our population is still in the rural areas, it is really important to focus on not only agricultural productivity, but how do we improve farm incomes and rural incomes. And this will thereby actually lead to the push factor for improving HDI in the country. Successive governments have done and taken a lot of initiatives in the past. And I think some of very path-breaking initiatives were announced in the recent budget of 2016-17. Today we have actually a very, very diverse panel to discuss these and other important things in rural upliftment. We have actually very consciously tried to have one expert from each field. We have just heard Dr. Dinar. He is the agronomist in our panel. He is the technical expert who will give us the technical inputs and insights. Dr. Dinar, thank you very much for that wonderful talk that you have given us. And thank you for joining us today. He has flown in from Tel Aviv just for this our panel. Dr. Virendra Hedge, we are really indeed blessed that Dr. Hegde accepted our invitation and he agreed to join us in this panel. Dr. Virendra Hedge is the Dharmadhikari of Sri Kshetra Dharmasthala and is a keen student of humanity. He regularly meets common people and is deeply involved in community activities. It will be interesting for you to hear that he is the original architect of the Root SETI movement in the country, that is the Rural Development Self-Employment Training Institute, and today that has metamorphosed into the RSETIs in the country. We today have 630 RSETIs in the country. As our chairman mentioned, we actually run 117 of them from our bank. Dr. Hegde has also been involved and closely driven a very, very interesting experiment, the SKDRDP project, which actually covers 600 coastal villages in Karnataka. And he has been actually driving self-employment and rural self-employment for rural youth in the local areas. We will, Dr. Hegde, again, grateful that you could join us. We will look to your insights in all-round development of rural areas. No discussion on agriculture or rural India can be complete without the presence of NABARD. I am grateful that Dr. Bhanwala has consented to join us today. Dr. Harsh Kumar Bhanwala is the chairman of NABARD since December 2013. He is a postgraduate in management from IIM Ahmedabad and he is a PhD degree holder. Dr. Bhanwala was earlier the executive director in India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited and also functioned as the CMD for a while. Then we have Ms. Jayashree Vyas with us. She is heading the Seva Bank, the Shri Mahila Seva Sehkari Bank Limited. She is the managing director there. Her bank has been rendering human services to the poor and downtrodden women of rural India. Ms. Vyas, prior to her stint at Seva, she was a financial analyst at Central Bank of India. She is the managing trustee of the Indian School of Microfinance for Women and has been a pioneer in and leader in savings, insurance, rural finance, energy loans and financial literacy for low women in rural areas. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. We have already heard Dr. Dinar give his keynote address. I will request Dr. Hegde to make his opening remarks, please.
I'm happy to be in this beautiful hall representing the rural development sector, because I'm only a person with this dress and perhaps I'm attracting your attention more than others. This is natural because I was born in 1948 and I have seen the growth of this nation as I grew. And today, I find changes in the nation. We are very prosperous from what we were in 60s and 80s. The changes in the rural areas are very much interesting, and to some extent we can accept that the rural poverty has been eliminated and most of our people are living in better condition than what they were. When I was young, about 15 or 10 or 15, I found villagers with only two short dress in front of their waist, and hardly they had any dhoti or kurta to wear. Ladies were of course with one sari or otherwise. So today we feel the whole as a nation and as in some of the villages which are blessed with good rainfall or minimum rainfall or with better support from the state and central government programs, are living in a better condition what they were when they were as their grandmothers or mothers lived. But there are tremendous programs projected from the union government as well as the state governments for their improvement. In fact, there is a chase, crazy programs are designed, and every day we find a new ad in the newspapers about the governments trying to implement new programs and new projects. But unfortunately, the sweet-colored and sweetly presented programs of the governments are not implemented to the extent it is expected in the villages. And I always say there are two types of ignorances in a person. One is lack of knowledge, lack of information. Poverty is of two types. One is the economic poverty, another is intellectual poverty. So in our villages, I find the first one, economic poverty, has to be tackled, and it is forever. That competition to earn and spend is always there. But intellectual poverty is what I wish to attack. I always think that if people are better informed, they are informed about the programs, and if the programs are reaching the right person in the right time, most of our problems will be solved. Now, you find hundreds of programs, but hardly any program reach the right person for two reasons. One is they have to be well informed about it. Second one is, without middlemen, they must be able to reach it. The first one is, if there are good programs, it is always, in a very wide way, it is spread over. So, unless they catch hold of a middleman, or unless catch hold of a political person in their village to get that benefit through the panchayat, taluka panchayat, jilla panchayat, state, they will not succeed in getting it. Another problem in the rural areas are that most of these programs are with support of some documentations and with proper records and deliveries. These people have no knowledge of it, and many a times they fail to get the right advantage of the program at the right time. So I wanted to inform the beneficiaries that you, as citizens of this nation, you have a right to take advantage of all the programs of the state. And you have to demand for it. You have to fight for it. You have to argue for that. Use all your power of a citizen, as a voter, as a whatever you are, to get it. But unfortunately, the program implementation is very poor compared to the program publicity. The other one is, when they are able to get these programs, they are not implementing it properly, because there is always a feeling in agriculturists that take advantage of the program, not take benefit of the program. Advantage is, take any subsidy that you can get. Take any loan that you can get, but don't worry about the implementation of that and returning of that, or the projection of that. So many of our villagers are always expecting a benefit than investment support. This is where our projects, we are always trying to do this. We are always trying to educate people to say that you become partners to programs. We always say, don't become beneficiaries to program. Always to try to become partners in program. I always call them as partners in progress. I call all my members who are in my project as, you are the partners in progress, partner to progress. But don't think that you are always beneficiaries to programs. Another is, we want them to be change makers. I say you have to be change makers. Everybody, every person in the village, you have to make a change, either a man or woman or youngster or whoever you are. Try to bring in change in the place, change in the house, change in the mentality, change in the approach, change in taking advantages and benefits of the program. I said change makers are the important people whom we want in the villages. And the third one is, they have to be always feeling partners to progress. Otherwise, all the programs now, for example, a person, if he is growing variety of crops, he has to approach 5 to 6 departments for his benefit. For example, if he is growing coconut, he has to go to coconut board. If he is growing arecanut, he has to go to arecanut board. If he is growing coffee, he must go to coffee board. If he is a horticulturist, then he must go to horticulture board. I will not lengthen it very much. Pepper board, spices board, there are so many boats. The advantage is good for research, development, and fund flow. All this is necessary. But if a single person has variety of crops, there is no single window like what industrialists you have here or the corporates have. But we have to pass on to several people, and everywhere there is a hurdle. There is a blockade where he is discouraged to get it than to encourage to get it. So some of our problems are such. And one important factor I would like to bring to your notice is the villagers are having sufficient income than their parents. But the cost of living has increased so much, their attitude and ambitions have grown to that extent, now their expenses have grown. They are not able to meet the expenses to the new lifestyle that they have adopted from the income that is generated from the land, which is only limited. So there should be a balance between the income and expenditure of a person and family. So we educate women. So what we have done is we have formed women groups where we want to educate women group. We call a program called Jnana Vikas. We say you should know how to manage your family. Don't leave everything to men. And so that you also become group to JLG. Now it's a very popular program of the Government of India's JLG. I think banks are also depending on JLGs, joint liability groups. This is the one concept with which we can support the farmers better through cooperative societies, through banks, to our NGOs. At the same time, see that investments are done properly and returns of the borrowings and the investments are also happening properly. So I wish that the banks are more practical in lending, because many of the fund flow from the banks to the farmers are always on doubt, suspicion, and always care. So this suspicion on farmers, doubt on farmers, and a feeling that they're always defaulters is a point where we feel many of our farmers and beneficiaries in the agriculture sector are let down. So I request the bankers, the cooperative sector people, and our NGOs who are doing microfinance to have more faith in these people, to educate them, to train them, and to see that they prosper.
Thank you, Dr. Hegde. I'll request Dr. Bhanwala to please make his opening remarks.
I think I can confine to 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes? How much? 10 minutes. All right, fine. Thank you. First of all, thank you for this opportunity and for sharing thoughts. And also for appropriately choosing the topic, because we mostly discuss growth. And on a very few occasions on improvement of quality of life, and also improvement of productivity and the linkages between the two, between the growth and the other ones. Now, we have heard some economists in the past who have talked about, based on the growth and the distribution of growth and redistribution, class conflicts. These class conflicts, some have said are capital and labor, some have said foreign and national interest. To me and to our institution, the biggest conflict potentially which is there based on what the growth and distribution is happening today is between rural and urban divide. The way the growth is happening, although some of the economists and social workers have talked about in past about Bharat and India, it's nothing new, but the differences between the two are growing. And this is growing on various fronts. I'll just enumerate some of them. But aspirationally, we have seen in rural areas, the aspirations of urban are as high as the rural people. So conflict, though, is between rural and urban, but within these two, there is a conflict between aspirations and deliveries, and aspirations and what actually outcomes are there for them in the systems. See, this difference between rural and urban areas is net income is almost 2.5 times in urban areas compared to rural areas. Net per capita income. And if you look at, I have statistics with me, the national census of 2011, economic census, nearly 3/4 rural households. We have approximately 16 crore rural households in the country. 3/4 have income less than 5,000 per month. This is the census economic data is available with us. Half of the rural households do not own land. And of the other half, I mean, the remaining half, only 50% are enterprises. Rest all are casual laborers working. Now, if you have such a situation, then primarily I feel the opportunities available being created by the system are very few. It is the lack of opportunities which really distinguishes urban and rural areas. And we do rural posting of branch managers. Hardly anybody stays in rural areas because absence of opportunities in rural areas. Now these opportunities are made from various systems, and one of the major systems is lack of infrastructure. We have been funding from NABARD side lots of infrastructure. However, I feel we have done on an average, we do around 25,000 crores every year. But this is around 15%, 10 to 15% of what investments are made by the state governments themselves. 15 to 20%, some states 10%. But what governments do in rural areas is much less than what is required, what is aspired for. So see the gap between the two infrastructural requirements, and the investments for infrastructure in rural areas is not going to come from revenue models, or it is not going to come from user charges based models. It has to come primarily through the government. So the entire ecosystem, I'm not saying what kind of infrastructure, but broadly roads, irrigation facilities, storage facilities for the whatever is being produced. We have distribution inadequacies, channels are not enough. Even if the inflation is down in some of the urban areas, still the rural poor is having, or in the hill areas, the price has not really come down because in sparse distribution systems. Then we have hospitals inadequacy, we have schools inadequacy, and which has huge bearing on HDI. So this is one area which I feel is major area to be focused on. Then I would also say that this infrastructure that we create brings with it technology and a new thought, new orientation to deal with things, which requires, I feel, skill building, because the way roads come, the new kind of skills are required. The moment there is a irrigation system being developed, new kind of skill systems are required. So do we have, we were hearing a few minutes ago Mr. Dinar speak about greenhouses. We have been talking, providing subsidy in greenhouses for several years, but we still don't have adequate capacities to service the existing greenhouses. You create one because of the subsidy availability, but subsequently to maintain it, there are no people in the rural areas. Similarly, we have a scheme now for solar pump sets. It has been recently, ambitious targets have been launched for agriculture sector, but we find still there are large number of districts where servicing is inadequate, this thing. So capacity building, which is based on identified skill sets, deficiencies in rural areas. So human resource mapping is a big issue. Data management of inadequacy of infrastructure, inadequacy of skill set. I think in our country we are yet to map any of these two. Let me also say, number of economists must be there. We have talked about agriculture, sectoral economies, GDPs, etc., but absolutely no database on rural economy, GDP from rural areas. We are talking in terms of surveys, but no laid out system for rural economies or per capita economies there. Another deficiency we greatly find based on our experience, and the state governments are also partly sensitive to it, not great extent. Some of the state governments are very sensitive. Health is a big area. If you look at the spending, large amount of out-of-pocket expenses in rural areas go for health-related issues, and particularly for women. I was surprised. We have been talking about sanitation primarily in terms of charity-based toilet creations in recent years. SHG program, which we've been the world's biggest program, which we have had in the country along with banks, pioneered by NABARD. I've seen women paying for their sanitation facilities. And that is primarily because they save out-of-pocket expenses. So health, we have greatly, very little public funding. I would say there was a study which says 32% of my health expenses are through public, rest all are through private. And out of those, whatever is the private, 85% is through basically the out-of-pocket expenses, which is 20% in developed countries. So huge things to learn from neighbors as well. So health, education again, quality of education we have all heard in the newspapers, but mere statistics speak for themselves. 30%, 36% are still illiterates in the country. And out of the 36%, the persons with primary background, just qualifying the primary school is 1/5 of whatever are the literate. So I'm not talking about literacy and education. If you talk about whatever we learn, and application is what basically is education. So that difference is a huge effort required. So primary literacy and this thing has to be focused on. As a result, for last couple of years, we have given a lot of emphasis on rural infrastructure creation for rural IITIs and also for primary schools in areas where there are no schools at all. Agriculture, we have focused 60% of the households dependent on agriculture, and of which nearly 40% are primarily dependent on agriculture as a mainstay. So anything has to happen in rural areas has to focus on agriculture. It's not there, the GDP contribution may not be 70%, it's around 14 to 16% of agriculture, but dependence is large. So as a result, increasing the incomes in rural areas through agriculture is of prime importance. For the first time, there is a thought on the income security of the farmer, whether mitigating the risk, the Fasal Bima, or otherwise through various other measures. So broadly in the end, I would say, confining to 10 minutes, is while 3 dimensions for HDI in rural areas, I primarily see health, education, and increased income. And increased income means distribution of, whatever they can earn for in a better manner. And for these 3-dimension fulfillment, I primarily feel 3 things for as a strategy to do this. One is boosting of agriculture productivity, related as income, and diversification of sources of rural livelihoods. No, everything cannot come from agriculture. There has to be a shift. And we have seen a large shift of population in China's case. We have seen some of it during the good growth years of agriculture. And lastly, I would say urbanizing the rural areas. We have seen some minor beginnings in terms of urban concepts, etc. But a lot needs to be done. Unless we create enough amenities in rural areas, we'll have issues. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Dr. Bhanwala, for that. I think your very brief talk has shown us how challenging and enormous the task ahead is for all of us who are stakeholders in this. Ms. Vyas, if I can request you to make your remarks, please.
Good afternoon. Seva, I will talk about, it's more at a micro level what we have tried to do. Thank you for giving us a macro picture. Seva, that's Self-Employed Women's Association, is a parent organization of Seva Bank. And, we call it, because we want to give respect to these women, we are saying self-employed women. But basically, these women are, working in the informal sector. Typically, basically maybe small traders or vendors and home-based workers like, garment makers and artisans and others. And the provider of labor services, construction workers as well as agriculture workers and also rag pickers and others. So these women, I'm saying women because majority, actually in our country, 89% of the total workforce is working in informal sector and majority of them are women. Almost 60% of them are women. So this is the reason why, we have been talking about, the informal sector women workers. In early 70s, the Seva was started by organizing these women workers in the informal sector. Of course, it was started in urban area, but then it extended into the rural area also. When a small study was done on these women, it was found that all three types of women, it was found that they are working very hard and they are working almost from 15 to 18 hours a day. Their income is, in 70s, early 70s, it was 25 rupees per day, but now of course it has increased to 200 rupees a day. Their living conditions are very bad, their working conditions are very bad. But there were two major financial problems, and I'll just talk about those two financial problems. One was that, because they needed capital because they were working on their own. In a way, they were working on their own. Either, of course, working on contract basis, but still they had to buy raw material of themselves. If a bidi roller, she would have to buy raw material herself. Or a vegetable vendor would have to buy vegetables every day. So they needed capital and did not have much capital with them. So were borrowing from informal sector at a very, very high rate of interest. So that was one problem. And second problem was that they did not have their own equipments. So they did not have, like a garment maker would not have her sewing machine, or even a cart puller would not have her own cart. So would would take it on rental basis at 60 rupees or whatever. So as it is, their income being very low, and their big portion of that was going either towards interest or towards rent. So it was women, these women who said that we want to start our own bank. So initially nobody even thought that that could be a bank, but they decided to even share their capital. So it was a very low requirement of capital, 1 lakh rupees. So they contributed the capital and a bank was started. When we started a bank, it was in 74. We did not have any blueprint to follow. We did not have experts with us. What we had was only commitment for these women, and and our objective was very clear, that we want to help these women to come out of this whole vicious cycle of poverty. That is, help them to come out of the clutches of money lenders, help them to build their assets and capital, and help them to increase their income and increase their productivity and reduce their drudgery. So it is a long way we have come. I will not share lots of experiences, but the first experience, and of course then we started working in rural area also by forming SHGs. The first thing which was that, and first of our product was also to help them to come out of the clutches of money lenders. So repayment of old loans, and many of them had also mortgaged or pledged their assets. So would help them to give a loan for getting back the assets. And in the rural area, when we started SHG, before starting at SHGs, we did some survey of of marginal farmers as well as landless laborers, but marginal farmers, and 80% of the family had mortgaged the land. And the condition of that land was that they have to repay the lump sum amount. They can't pay in installments, and if they don't repay within 2 or 3, whatever is the prescribed time limit, if they don't pay within that period, then the land titles are transferred in the lender's name. So basically, they were becoming laborer on their own land. So the first thing we started was, giving them a loan for getting back their land. So this is, I think this is, and still which is happening is that, our first one type of loan we always have is that repayment of old debts, or, getting back whatever assets they have, which is mortgaged or pledged. The second thing which we always have seen, and women have basic instinct to save, but some facilitating them to save, and that is always we have seen that we can collect saving little bit, 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, now of course 100 rupees, but that saving is also a capital, and that helps them to build their self-confidence. The third, and which is the most important, is that how can we help them to increase their income. And of course giving working capital loan is one, but we also see that it's very important to build their capacity. And often the type of, because we have to go closer and work with them and to see that what type of economic activity they are doing and how they're doing. and try to understand that, how can we improve whatever the way they are working so that their productivity can also be increased and drudgery can also be reduced. I'll just give you one example is that, we have in nearby, we are in Ahmedabad, so in nearby villages, women and of course the whole family are, they are growing roses. And because these roses have to come in the city by 4 o'clock in the morning, they pluck all the roses. They start plucking at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock, and they will finish it by 3 o'clock. Because they were using a lamp, because it's it's dark, so they were using lamp. It was not an innovation, but we tried to ask somebody that can we find some way out for this, and somebody suggested that why don't you have a that lamp which the miners are using. And of course we were working with solar lamps, so the solar company prepared this, and it was a loan of 750 rupees for that lamp, but it increased their productivity by 50%, because then if the thing which we were able to do with one hand, in 3 hours, they could do it in 1 hour, finish it in 1 hour. And then we found that similarly things were happening when we were sharing it with others. We found that in even Tamil Nadu and other places also, southern India also, they were using, and they were using even more dangerous thing. They were using kerosene lamp. So they were not even, they were so scared, the women were so scared. So, they were not even bow down and, take it from the down. So basically, the point is that, if we see little bit closer to their work, there can be some solutions which can come. So that was one example. The other example I would like to give is that, as I already said, that, equipments and assets, which are very expensive. These people do not have that, and normally they're doing all work manually. So there were two things which we had done. One thing which we had done was in the rural area. In a rural area, we have SHGs and we have SHG federations. So those federations, they had some money, because they had collected some money also. So they decided, and they borrowed also, they decided to start equipment library, farm equipment library. So initially they started with small equipments, but later on they even had bought some bigger equipments also. It was managed by women themselves, because association is also made of these women. They were doing all the things. They were giving it on rent. They were even giving it to non-members also at a higher rent. So within a period of 2 years, it became viable. The whole thing became viable, but women could use these equipments and their productivity had gone up. Apart from this, what we have, I'm talking about urban area, that we have carpenter women. This carpenter women are making all the wooden furniture, but they are doing it, they were cutting wood manually. And they were asking that, if we can have a maybe cutting machine, then we will be able to increase our productivity. So we thought that, okay, let us give that loan for them. When we went to their house, we found that they didn't have electric connection. So first, give electric connection and then give them a loan. And often we saw, insurance, of course, everybody knows insurance is important, but we learned over a period of time that, we saw that they have saved money, they have come out of the debts, and one sickness in the family, or one accident, and whatever they have saved is going back. So so we decided that, okay, let us have an insurance. We start linked with insurance. We initially started with Life Insurance Corporation of India. We were also learning a lot in the process. What we did was that from 50,000 account, we just deducted some premium amount and gave it to LIC. And at the end of the year, all women came and they said, oh, we have not died, now give us our money back. So we realized that, they don't understand what insurance is. So, and even today we were seeing that when under the Jan Dhan Yojana, many women 330, they were saying, okay, I have given 330, my road will be at least repaired. So, often it happens that they don't understand what insurance is. And one of the impact study which was done in Seva Bank, and in that impact study it was found that yes, we are able to help them to increase their income and assets, but they are still going back to money lenders. And that helped, that, we thought that, what could be the reason why this is happening. So we tried to understand that, maybe we have to we have to know about their financial behavior. And we did some study on financial behavior. We found three things. One was that, because they are earning on day-to-day basis and living on day-to-day basis, their thinking also is the same, that, they aaj kamaya, aaj khaya kind of thinking. And the other thing which is linked with that is that they make very impulsive financial decisions, that I need money and there's a money lender sitting here, or now even microfinance organizations are also there. So would borrow without thinking, will I be able to repay this money, what interest rates they are charged. And the third thing which was very, which was linked with that, that for all types of financial needs or life cycle financial needs, they would use only one service, and that is credit. Would not save. It would save, but would save for rainy days, not for, not for purposes. And, I mean, insurance, they normally don't understand. Now, of course, they have started understanding. But so this was, so on the basis of we also started our financial literacy program and counseling, individual counseling program. So, so basically, I think the experience which we have seen is that unless we work closely with them, provide hand-holding support to them, it is difficult for them to really come out of the whole poverty. So this is just in short.
Thank you, Ms. Vyas. I think what you said actually really resonates with what Dr. Hegde mentioned, that it is the lack of knowledge, it is the lack of awareness, it is the middlemen, it is the intellectual poverty actually that many times hampers our countrymen in the rural areas of availing what benefits actually they could avail. Dr. Hegde, this question is to you, if I may. The Honorable Prime Minister has talked about doubling of farm incomes and providing employment to rural youth in rural India. What do you think should be the policy approach for providing regular streams of income to the rural youth? It is quite evident that just depending on agriculture is not sufficient. So what is your experience, if you may share how we can improve this?
Very important point is in agriculture, a person or the family is not engaged for more than 90 days a year. And there are certain crops where you need everyday constant observation, like in our coastal area or in the green area where rainfall is much higher than about 30 inches. They have throughout the year work as well as kept busy throughout the year. But where there is jowar, sugarcane, or some crops like coconut and others, they don't need day-to-day maintenance. So all the family members, they become, in fact, helpless of engaging themselves in any activity. And naturally, they will go into other habits, either whether it is liquor or squandering their time for various activities. So the youngsters who have been watching the media, the lifestyle of the urbanites, the style of film actors, the way the city people, I mean, at least in the celluloid they see, they say, oh, they think it's better to go to the urban areas than to live in this bloody village and spoil my life here. So when they go to the urban areas, how much they get? I don't know whether they get more than 7,000 in garment industry or more than 10,000 in a garment industry. So a girl from a village travels 300 kilometers to enter into a garment labor, and she earns this small money. For that, she has to live in a rented place, manage her food, dress, and also save something for the family. But if she stays in a village, she can definitely earn more than that. Now, she said 200 rupees per day. I'm very fortunate in my district, even a lady gets 200, men get minimum 500. A coconut dropper will get 1,000 rupees per day, 1,000 rupees per day. And any coolie will get minimum 500 rupees in Kerala, in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu and Andhra. Exceptions are there. I don't say that every village can get it. But the urbanites are attracting the attention of the villagers, thinking that their life index is very high. So, we have sufficient programs in village. One of the programs we started is the Self-Employment Training Institute. I started it in 1982, and now it has become a model to the country. And I'm happy that I have been given the honor of being the honorary president of that cities in India. And you are one of the major role players with 147 institutes. So this was to see that these villagers will stay in their own village for service sector. There are so many services, pump set repair, maintenance of pump sets, marketing of pump sets. Then they have the dairy, poultry, piggery, and so many other programs where they can earn within the village level. And then maintenance of mobile phones, electrical appliances, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, so many. They've been discussing for this for last yesterday and today. But the feeling, a myth that we can live happily in a city and we can have a better life standard in the city is the problem now. Then opportunities are less in our own dear state. If I take my state, I can categorize it into 4 areas where our honorable Israeli gentleman has said now. Like the colors faded from the water level to the desert level, we also have the same situation in our state, in every state of our country. So we cannot compare one village with another village, one opportunity with another opportunity. But still, there are sufficient opportunities to stay back in the village and to earn. I am happy that Prime Minister has given so many new programs where he thinks that we can retain the rural people in their own area and give them more livelihood. But again, I would say that the communication is not yet strong enough. And today I was reading with the State Bank of India report in which they have published what are the projects of Government of India and state government. If they are made known to the people in the villages, which we are doing, we have a project called Shri Kshetra Dharmasala Rural Development Project. We have 35 lakh members in the project. And one of our activities is to see that government programs reach the right person. We always say, when I meet Rotary and Lions or JC members, I tell them, kindly don't think of service activities. Only think of getting the government programs to the right beneficiary. Several programs are there. You need not spend for only eye bank or a blood camp or something. See that all these government projects reach the right person, the right lady in the village. Create awareness. This is my advice to them. I think there are several opportunities that can be created in future also. And we can see that the rural sector is strengthened and made more attractive. That was one suggestion I am making, the livelihood in rural areas more. I think when we see the movie, it is very attractive, but in reality, it is not so. Sanitation, for example, we say sanitation, but we supported 2,69,000 toilets with 1,000 rupees because there was sufficient money from the state flowing into the sanitation sector. But they were not completing the projects. Even after completing, they were stacking firewood or something on the toilets. But we found a truth. There was no water in every village. There was no drinking water. Forget about cooking and bathing. So when they cannot have water for minimum, a bottle of water like this for the drink, how can they think of protecting their family, protecting their animals, and then think of sanitation, flushing the toilets? Flushing toilets in Taj Mahal is easy, but to think of that flushing in a village is unimaginable. So whatever is the life condition, youngsters will start running to the cities thinking that at least they will get minimum living standards there and minimum comforts there and respect there, so they rush to the cities. If these are provided in the rural areas, I don't find any reason for anybody to move to the urban areas.
Thank you, Dr. Hegde. Dr. Bhanwala and Dr. Dinar, actually, I want to pose this question to you. in India, as we know, 80% of our farmers are small and marginal farmers with less than 2 hectares of land. And you have just shared with us statistics that a large number of agricultural laborers in the villages who don't have any land at all. So are there new emerging technologies in India or globally and farming practices which can actually increase the productivity of small farms? You know, we all our technologies so far, you know, harvesters, etc., are geared towards making large farms more productive.
Thank you. I think aggregation is the next theme in Indian agriculture. Along with aggregation, reskilling or shifting partly the employment. I mean, if you have to really increase everything, you know, with so many people dependent on agriculture, even then you cannot double it. You know, there is a growth in population anyway. So you have, some people have to shift, that's one. But aggregation has to be for, you know, when we have two problems. One problem is size of the land holding will keep going down. Because we have larger people, same piece of land. So either we change the way we do agriculture, or we change the process in which we are doing the present agriculture. So the process modifications which I am suggesting are, we have bodies who come together, small farmers come together, aggregate their produce to go to market, aggregate for their input supply, aggregate for their labor supply, aggregate for their farm mechanization needs. So custom hiring of these things. We need strong legislative measures to support oral leasing. You know, what is happening today is small people are anyway giving leasing, oral leasing to people, but some of the small and marginal farmers are beneficiaries on this count. But they don't get any institutional support through mechanism, through funding, etc., and other things, in the absence of any formal document to say that I'm tilling this land. So we need those measures. In addition, we need huge support from the universities and even private research institutions, which are doing to do a localized research. You know, soil health is depleting. The farmer doesn't know, despite soil health card, I mean, one-time measure of updating, but it keeps on deteriorating every day, with every season. So you require mechanisms to analyze strong relationship, which Mr. Dinar was saying, that research embedded technology application based on what is the real ground situation. So this will also require strong linkages. He mentioned about three things where I was keenly watching him. One is the extension workers, one is researchers, and the participants themselves. But in India's case, when you focus on small and marginal farmers, because they don't have any wealth to fall back on, they don't have any mechanism to fall back on, risks are too high, climate change events are too high. So you require, as a fourth circle, of finance, which may be through banks or by other mechanisms. So these four will play a major role under the overall ecosystem of legislative reforms and institutional mechanisms to reach out to small and marginal farmers.
First of all, sorry. I think for the answer for your question, if smallholders of 2 hectares can make a living, the answer, in my opinion, is yes. Okay, that's my opinion. The question, of course, it's how to organize. It's not only one grower, two growers, how to approach to this kind of points, to this kind of subject. Just to remind you, you know, at the beginning, when we start all the project in the Arava, the hectarage was 1 hectare, 2 hectares. Of course, later on, aggregation naturally comes. But at the beginning, 1 hectare was good enough, good enough. The idea, and I agree with all the other speakers, in my opinion, first of all, we have to focus. We cannot solve, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm saying we, I'm from Israel, I'm not from India. It's impossible from my point of view, to give a solution for all India. I think it will be maybe interesting for you to focus on maybe 10 places, good places, after you analyze the economical opportunity of this area to market the production from these 10 hectares. You know, when we did the project in Israel or other places, we start from the market. We start from the market. Can we produce pepper, good pepper, or herbs, medicinal crops, tomato? First of all, we start for the market. It's not only the prices, also the communication and all the other stuff that was mentioned here. Second, it is not a one-year project. It is 5 or even 10-year project, and the support is not only loans. The support, I mean, of course loans, but the support is really all the envelope which can help the grower in the first year, in the second year. And here, I know people from India, very good research people. I know people from the extension service, excellent people. The grower also, some of them, I met some of them, they are so interested to learn. So maybe one aspect is to just focus on several places with economical potential, and then in each place, maybe to take maybe 10 growers, 11, 20 growers, and make this kind of, I call it applied R&D. And don't miss any point in the link. It must be applied research. It must be training system to these growers. It must be all this idea. So the simple, it's possible. I think 2 hectares for medicinal crops, or even for high level of pepper, depends very much how distant is from market. But choosing the right place, start from the market. Start from the market. To whom to market, and the communication, the prices, the profit, etc. Thank you.
I have a question for him. People who do not know where is Israel know Israel because of your experiments. But I was surprised with the way you have developed minor irrigation, drip irrigation, and other irrigations. But kindly tell me, what is the production cost and the marketing process? Any goods you produce from this greenhouse and many of them. What is the cost of production, and is it supported by the market price?
Okay, it's very general, but of course there are crops. That's the cost. I mean, the profit is good, and of course there is a natural movement from crop to crop. At the beginning of pepper, let's say the production was very low, not very high, very low. It's, let's say, 100 ton per hectare. It's possible here. I can promise you it's possible here. I know that near Karla in Gujarat, they are using this kind of, they're having this kind. So the market will pay them, I don't want to, it's about, can be even $1 per kg. Yeah, no, it's much more than break-even. The break-even, normally, it will be 50%. 50%. This is very general, yeah? For medicinal crop, it will be higher. But of course, the expertise have to be higher. But the expertise, listen, the people, you know, young people are, want to learn. Okay.
This is because I went to a village when the tomato of 1 kg was costing 90 rupees. So when I came back home, within 15 days, it was 20 rupees. Believe me, it was 90 rupees when I went to the field. But when I returned, and within 15 days, the prices had dropped down to 90 to 20. This is the problem of every agriculturist, because there is no protection for the pricing.
Yeah, of course, depend very much on the season, on the supermarket.
Support, I would say that's why we need more processing facilities and storage facilities. So huge deficit in this area.
May I say something
I
about
think that will, yes, more processing facilities and storage facilities would take care of some of these seasonal variations and fluctuations in prices. We are actually running a little short of time, and I'll certainly request the audience to be ready with their questions. One last thing before I go over to the audience. Dr. Bhanwala, what is your view on the national agricultural market that was announced by the government in their recent budget? Their very ambitious plan to cover 585 mandis by FY18. Do you think the passage of the GST bill, but given the APMC acts and that given that agriculture is a state subject, how ambitious do you think this target is? Is it doable? Because I think through all the, deliberations we've just had, having a good market, accessible market, open market is a very key input into increasing farm incomes.
Sure. Basically, we are targeting through e-market, National Agriculture Market, at present around 600 APMCs. But if you look at the number of agriculture markets is much larger. That's the first thing. So, we need to do lots more work than what is being done. But great step in the sense that first time we are making available digitally some information and trying to link it to some of the exchanges as well. Also making available the marketing of the produce because of the digital platform from one to another place. Point of sale earlier was defined as only one mandi. Now the point of sale has been shifted to a broader state perspective, or that's a very encouraging thing from the farmer's point of view. But huge capacity building of farmers are required. And the lot sizes, with 85% small farmers being there, we need aggregate mechanisms. You need intermediate institutions, form bodies, FPOs. In addition, the present, all the reform of APMC does not come from digitally linking them. They are short of lots of other assaying facilities, labs, storage facilities, lots of other things need to be done. So it's a very positive intent, but we need to build on this with a lot of other measures in terms of other infra, educating farmers, and also strong, very strong political will at the state level. The kind of will which has been displayed by Karnataka in bringing out this transformation is worth emulating. So though the center is pushing it, but agriculture is a state subject, so they have to take along the states to bring in the reforms in the APMCs. Thank you.
I think 16 states have already amended their APMC Act, and given that yes. But I am an optimist, and given that GST has been passed, we hope that this will be a game changer for our farmer countrymen. I will now throw open the house for questions from the audience. This kind of diverse panel availability, I think, is really... Yes, Dr. Ranade.
Thank you. This is a very vast subject, and I think the panelists tried their best to fit in. One takeaway I could see that while Mr. Dinar gave an excellent presentation on technology to maximize agricultural production from a scarce condition that they have, but our discussion in India is much more about, like Dr. Bhanwala said, health, education, poverty. So agriculture is sort of embedded in a larger subject. My question is very specific and a small one. I didn't see any discussion of trade, the role of trade in improving the lot of agriculture in general. Just to give a very small example, the world's largest coffee drinker is United States, but not even a gram of coffee, or 0.001% of coffee grows in that country, but they consume something like, 1.4 billion kilos of coffee. And the same goes for other crops. The same story is repeated for Japan and a few other countries. Now, India has a very adverse land mass ratio compared to some of these countries. And of course, per capita income is low, poverty is confined to rural areas. So can we depend on trade to help us at least address some of these problems related to agriculture, international trade?
First of all, we have larger demand which is unmet. That's keeping the agriculturist engaged today. But there are other issues for trade. When we have large variations in price, so the decisions sometimes are consumer-oriented rather than farmers-oriented. As a result, when the prices are good internationally or domestically, keeping the interests of the consumer, there are certain checks and practices, the entire storage and other things come under a lot of pressure. Now, we can ideally say, yes, with such an adverse land mass ratio, we should produce for international markets. And one example which has happened is milk, I would say. Milk, we have shown a tremendous growth in the milk production. And with this increased production, the trade to some extent has been facilitated despite the quality consciousness of international consumers. No, some of the markets are there which you can immediately target based on what restrictions, quarantine measures are there. But still, it has been possible to do. I would say the kind of capacity required for international markets to be fulfilled to begin with has to be focusing on certain specialized areas of production. That's my personal view. And later on, people, because of demonstration effect, other persons can carry it forward. So larger coverage of small and marginal farmers has to cater to domestic demand. Whereas large farms which have capacity to imbibe technology, which have capacity to know what other markets are, which have capacity to link to assaying centers, which have capacity to know the international prices, can certainly cater to this, which require reforms in the sense that to what extent there can be some kind of contract farming was one example here. But there could be other mechanisms of carrying it out. We have an experience of contract farming for last several years. I mean, right from the indigo farmers to the chicory blending by Brook Bond in the brew coffee, to the recent ones, tomatoes in Pepsi. But we have seen they start with a lot of bang, and subsequently it does not percolate to small farmers. So to large number of farmers, domestic market is going to be the key taker. Yes, we can work on international trade. It's an opportunity, and we can. But these centers of excellence is a good concept which can help in this regard. The centers of excellence have been established. Now, quite a few states have done with Israelis' expertise. And we have received some kind of suggestion, and we are talking with Consul General here also to propagate more of centers of excellence. And once we bring that in, probably some of the trades could be considered. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One is, of course, in the morning, Mr. Mundra had talked about the investment credit in rural side hardly picking up over the last so many years. And on the other, we have Dr. Dinar, whose success in terms of investment credit, drip irrigation, and so on. Why is it that it is not going? See, if I can give you a couple of examples, for example, in Dehradun, there is this lychee, which is available, but then you see that the production of lychee is actually going down, and because of whatever maybe the climatic conditions goes up and down. We're talking about greenhouses, we're talking about exporting pepper and tomatoes from Israel. This is a big business for the country, and whether the stakeholders cannot all together do this in a focused way. That is one part. The second is in the, say, for example, the state of Karnataka. You see, on the one hand, we have Mr. Hegde's initiatives and all that growing in one direction. On the other, we have some of the largest issues in agricultural farmers and all that in terms of even bank defaults and so on. So is there something that needs to be done on investment credit, or whether all the stakeholders can come together and do something which would change the whole agricultural scenario? That is one question. The second is, of course, in terms of infrastructure. We had all talked about rural storages and all that. The basic issue is, again, yesterday we talked about rural roads. There is no rural roads worth the matter. With all the sort of initiatives that we take, I don't know where rural roads are in matters of priority and all that. It takes ages to get to some villages at some points of time, and connectivity to rural, between rural and urban. If that can be addressed in a significant way, I think a lot of this urbanization, which Dr. Manwala talked about, urbanization of rural areas, could be easily tackled once the connectivity is made substantially better. Thank you.
I think that's one suggestion for Karnataka to Dr. Hegde, but I'll respond to the investment credit part. First of all, it's competing with short-term credit, which is subvented. That's the first point I will make. A farmer, if he has a requirement up to 3 lakhs, even if it is a small requirement for investment purposes, he would love to go for the short-term route, which is subvented. That's very obvious. Anybody would try to take benefit. So that's one issue. So can we look at making as lucrative? I'm not saying please give subventions. It should not be taken that way. But what we need basically is, I'm with you, for investment purposes, we need to focus more on area-based schemes. I'm happy to share from NABARD side, earlier we had ARDC, we used to sanction area-based schemes. We switched on to automatic refinance facility later on, is presuming that these are inherently absorbed in the banks, that some capacities are there, we need not go for schematic. We again feel to give a push to investment credit, particularly precision farming through greenhouses, precision farming through micro irrigation, drip irrigation. Also, farm mechanization. You require, you see, land leveling ke liye you have laser-based machines today. And so these kinds of things require much higher investments. I think what is missing is that the connect between the banks and the farming requirements of this type today. We need to work on this, aggregate and bring a model to banks that yes, it's worth financing. So area-based schemes need to be focused. Area-based schemes need to be worked out along with the relevant departments of the state governments. Because you frame one scheme and there is no backup in the form of other infrastructure or support facilities or from research centers or agriculture universities. I think the kind of 4 diagrams which himself was mentioning, Mr. Dinar, I would say add finance part to the 4 ones. So based on that, if we can have area-based schemes, that will give a boost to investment credit. But I am 100% with you that we have been around 250 million tons of food grain production for several years. If we have to talk about considering our population growth, in next 5 years, our requirements are going to be much larger. So we need to invest in agriculture, and this investment has to be on farm and off farm. On farm by the farmer, and off farm through RIDF or some other mechanisms, lendings by banks for social infrastructure, which has come into the priority sector recently, or some other mechanisms. Both are required. Thank you.
This question is to the NABARD chairman. It's regarding the mechanization. We are talking always of the small and marginal farmers who cannot stock machines to work on the farms. So we need to bring in machines, and customer service centers are the only answer to the future doubling the farm credit, farm income, if you are thinking of that. And the stocking of machines can come through rural entrepreneurs. And we have the training institutes in every district who are training youths. So we need to actually increase credit to these youngsters who can stock machines in the villages to actually help these small and marginal farmers with the machines. Now, if the subvention is available, all the more better for these youngsters to stock these machines. So there's a big opportunity for the banks, for the youths, and for the farming sector. If we can liberate the small and marginal farmer from stocking the machines and renting it out. So why not NABARD take this up with the banks as well, and banks of the RCTs, banks are working with the rural youth. So why not we think of a stocking program in all the villages for helping the small and marginal farmers with the machines.
I think it's more of a suggestion, as Dr. Egre said. I'm on it with you. And let me also share that we have had some experiments and very successful experiments of customer hiring. We have more than 100 primary agriculture societies in Punjab, which are functioning as the farm equipment leasing centers for the members. We have small initiatives by some of the farm mechanization companies also. Mahindras have done, some others have also taken lead. We are building, let me also say that for last 2 years, NABARD has invested close to 200 crores as grant-based support for 2,200 farm farmers organization. Some of them, only a few of them, not some, I would say. Only a few of them as of now are working on farm equipments. I think some of this capacity creation through our cities is a very welcome idea. That's why I said, one presentation by Dr. Dinar was really insightful for us, because they talk about the present day based on 10 years or 5 years requirements. So if we can, our cities, Dr. Egre is there, if we can seize off the skill set deficiency based on 10 years requirements, our cities can do this. Some of these activities would themselves find a way in. And I would say that we have done very well in terms of reporting mechanisms, facilitating through digital reach. But we also need, along with this digital reach, some kind of hand-holding support, which is available in terms of connect between the machine and the human element somewhere in the system. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Bhanwala, for that very educative response. I'll take the privilege of asking the last question to Ms. Vyas. This is a softer question. In your experience, do you find that women who actually become self-sustaining, they start earning, do you find in those households, does the HDI, particularly the education, nutrition, health of the family, does it actually start improving, or it is more or less at par with the other households?
Of course, yes, definitely. Our experience has been that when there is a better financial condition in the house, the first thing is, of course, the nutrition. The first money they will spend on that. And the second, on education. This is health, of course. Health is whenever it's required is there. But education, and now, this generation of our members, they are so much for, and particularly daughters' education. So one of our members, she was a rag picker, paper picker, and her son is a doctor. And I can give many such examples. They're either MBA or engineer, particularly daughters. So that definitely happens. The other thing happens is also that they also give, some support to husband for expanding their business. Like rickshaw driver, so, if it was a rented rickshaw, then they would take a loan for, for buying a new rickshaw. So that's also the family businesses. They also support for family businesses also.
So thank you to all the panelists. I think after this discussion, as one of you mentioned, it is a very, very large topic to be covered in 1.5 hours. But I think it is very, very evident that to make a beginning in this area, everybody needs to work together. Dr. Dinar mentioned it has to be in terms of R&D, government strategy, local level people, the implementation of it, or whether it is in India, it has to be, financial literacy centers. In fact, incidentally, State Bank of India runs 237 financial literacy centers in addition to the RCTs. It has to be all the stakeholders, the NGOs. The task is enormous. And I again thank you all for joining us today and providing us so much information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam and Sirs. Before I let you step off the stage, I would request Chairman Ma'am to come to the stage and present mementos to the panel members.